So, in the course of the biomolecules, now we are at the third stage. After carbohydrates and lipids, today I am going to talk about one of the most abundant organic molecules in living systems, that is proteins. So, whatever course you follow or study in the future, in life science of course, proteins are going to be the most important. Therefore, please go through the lecture in full and please comment if you liked it. So, proteins are the most abundant organic molecules in living systems. They are also the molecules that have the most diverse range of functions. They may be structural, regulatory, contractile, or protective. They can be toxins or enzymes. You think of any function, protein does that. But protein shape is critical to its function. And in maintaining the shape, many different types of chemical bonds play a role. Even if you slightly change the conditions in which a protein resides, it may lead to the loss in protein shape, it leads to loss of its function or denaturation. So since proteins are macromolecules, there must be some monomers which make up this macromolecule, right? Like in carbohydrates, we had seen that monosaccharides make up the polysaccharides. And in lipids also, we had seen that glycerol and fatty acids make up the fats. Similarly, in case of proteins, we have amino acids which act as the monomers. Till now, there were 20 amino acids discovered in nature, but two rare new amino acids were discovered recently, selenocysteine and pyrrolysine. These are known as the 21st and 22nd amino acids. And we never know, in future, many new such amino acids also may come up. So now let's come up to the protein types and functions. These are some of the representative examples how proteins function. They can be digestive enzymes like amylase. They can be transport proteins, for example, hemoglobin, which transports what? Of course, oxygen throughout our body. They can be structural, like in cells we have cytoskeleton. Like our body has a skeleton, each cell also has a skeleton that is made up of structural proteins. There can be hormones, there can be defense proteins such as immunoglobulins. There can be contractile proteins which help in muscle contraction, and of course storage proteins such as egg white. These help in nourishment mainly and acts as a source of energy. So now let us look at the structure of an amino acid. Amino acids are the monomers. Each amino acid has the same fundamental structure. It consists of a central carbon atom, which is also called the alpha carbon. To it is attached an NH2 group or amino group, a carboxyl group, and a hydrogen atom. What varies between each amino acids is the R group. Scientists use the name amino acids because these acids contain both amino group and carboxyl acid group in their basic structure. So these are the known amino acids till now. Even if you can't remember all the amino acid structures, just understand the basic things how to remember. For example, mainly 5 classes of amino acids are there. One is non-polar aliphatic R group, one is polar uncharged R group, one is positively charged, negatively charged, and non-polar aromatic. So in non-polar aliphatic R group, we get only hydrocarbon groups attached to the amino acid as R group. The simplest amino acid is glycine, which has one H atom attached to it. Then there is alanine, a little bit more complex. Instead of H, we get a CH3. Then comes valine. Just put CH here and make 2 branches of CH3. There goes your valine. Then leucine, 1 CH2, just the branching continues. And isoleucine, in which 2 CH2 and CH3 groups, methyl groups are there. In case of methionine, after 2 CH2 groups, like Just draw isoleucine first. After two CH2 groups, add one S and one CH3. You would get methionine. Then comes the polar uncharged groups. That means polar groups are there, but they are not charged. Most common examples are OH and NH2 groups. For example, in serine, there is a CH2, that is just alanine. To it add one OH. You would get serine. Threonine, CH-OH, CH3. Cysteine is just the hydrosulfide substituent of serine. Instead of OH, you just add an SH group. Proline is a bit more complex. Asparagine has CH2 and CONH2 group to it. Glutamine has 2 CH2 and a CONH2 group to it. Lysine, arginine and histidine have positively charged groups. That is, positive amino groups are there. Aspartate and glutamate have negatively charged carboxyl groups. And 3 amino acids, phenylalanine, tyrosine and tryptophan, has aromatic groups attached to it. So among all these amino acids, a bit complex to remember is proline, tryptophan and histidine. Once you master these three, the rest are pretty easy and you can just add and remove hydrocarbon groups to draw this. Once we have learned what the amino acids are, let's move on to a bit more complex structure. Like in carbohydrates and fatty acids, you have seen that how dehydration reaction helps in building the monomers into a polymer. Similarly, here the amino acids join together to form a peptide bond. This is a covalent bond. This is also the result of a dehydration reaction. See, this is one amino acid, this is another. Here comes the OH, here comes the H. This two gets excreted out in the form of water and we get a C double bond O and NH bond. This bond is called the peptide bond. So the products that such linkages form are peptides. As more and more amino acids join to this growing chain, the resulting chain is a polypeptide. Each polypeptide has one NH2 group at one end and carboxyl group at the other end. But polypeptide and proteins are not the same thing. A polypeptide is technically a polymer, a chain of amino acids. But the protein is used for a polypeptide that have combined together, often have prosthetic groups, that is complementary groups, have a distinct shape and have a unique function. Protein synthesis के बाद भी these proteins get modified. These are known as post-translational modification and these are very important for a protein's function. They undergo cleavage, phosphorylation or require editing of other chemical groups. Only after these post-translational modifications, a protein becomes completely functional. So now let's come to the protein structure. The first important structure that you have to understand is the primary structure. So amino acid's unique sequence in a polypeptide chain is its primary structure. For example, here insulin is a protein, right? So insulin has two chains, a A chain polypeptide and a B chain polypeptide. These two chains are joined by disulfide bonds to form insulin. But each chain is a primary structure of the insulin. Another case where you have to understand that why the primary structure is so much important. Any change in even one amino acid in the primary structure can lead to a disease. The most famous example is sickle cell anemia. Here the hemoglobin beta chain has a single amino acid substitution. Specifically, valine in the beta chain substitutes the amino acid glutamic. However, it completely changes the shape and function of the hemoglobin molecule. A hemoglobin molecule has 600 amino acids. So you can imagine how important the primary structure is, since one change among 600 amino acids can change the structure of the hemoglobin completely. Here I am showing you, these are the residues. The valine replaces the glutamic acid here. See, these are the normal hemoglobins. These are the normal hemoglobins, round shaped. This is a sickle cell hemoglobin. It has completely lost its function to transport oxygen. And that's why dizziness, breathlessness, headache, and abdominal pain occurs due to deficiency in oxygen transport to the tissues. Next comes the secondary structure. Now the primary structure has formed, but these polypeptides now undergo local folding to give secondary structure, among which the most common are alpha helix and beta pleated sheet. Both these structures are formed by hydrogen bond. Now this is an alpha helix. Look at the twist, how this forms a chain, right? So these amino acids can be joined by intra-chain hydrogen bonds. That is, the hydrogen bonds are formed within a single chain. The opposite thing happens in beta pleated sheet. Here two chains are joined by inter-chain hydrogen bonds. So that is the basic difference in alpha helix and beta sheet, which also gets reflected in its structure. The alpha helix forms a spring coil-like structure. The beta sheet forms a plain sheet-like structure, and hence the name. Next is the tertiary structure. So now we have alpha helix, we have beta sheet. These then the polypeptide then uniquely three-dimensionally coils itself to form a three-dimensional structure. So the interactions among the R groups create the protein's complex 3D tertiary structure. R groups with like charges repel each other, and those with unlike charges attract to each other. When protein folding takes place, non-polar amino acid or hydrophobic R groups lie in the protein's interior. जैसा कि हमने phospholipids में भी देखा था. The hydrophobic groups are at the interior, the hydrophilic groups are towards the outside. Similarly, when protein folding also occurs, this happens. The R groups, which are hydrophobic, comes inside and the hydrophilic groups are outside. Now the quaternary structure. These tertiary structures then join together to form, the subunits join together and interact to form the quaternary structure. There are some pretty weak interactions between the subunits, but the togetherness of all the interactions together make it such a strong bond. For example, insulin has a combination of hydrogen and disulfide bonds that cause it to mostly clump into a ball shape. It starts out as a single polypeptide, loses some internal sequence in post-translational modification. Silk, however, has a beta pleated sheet structure. So, how this forms? This was the primary structure of amino acids. This then formed alpha helix and beta pleated sheet. The alpha helix and beta pleated sheet joined together to form a 3D structure. Two or more such 3D structures join together to form a final protein, that is the quaternary structure. Now the last part of the protein chapter, denaturation and protein folding. So each protein has its unique sequence and shape that chemical interactions hold together. If the protein is subject to changes in temperature, pH or chemicals, the protein loses its shape and function. So this is called denaturation. But in denaturation, the primary sequence is not altered. Therefore, if the denaturing conditions or denaturing agent is removed, the protein can resume its function. But sometimes denaturation is irreversible, leading to loss of function. One example is if you fry egg, the albumin protein turns white. Why? Because it denatures. Not all proteins denature at high temperatures, however. For instance, some bacteria survive even in hot spring because their proteins have the function to maintain themselves at temperature close to boiling. Likewise, stomach is also a very hostile environment. It has acid, it has low pH that denatures proteins. But this is good. Why? Because it helps in the digestion process. protein folding is very critical for this function. When the proteins do not fold correctly, it may lead to many diseases. For example, you must have heard about the disease Alzheimer's. It happens because a protein misfolds itself. It folds wrongly, and therefore it cannot exert its normal function, and therefore the disease. But to help with the protein folding, there are some proteins that are called chaperones that associate with the proteins and help to fold them correctly. If the chaperones cannot fold the proteins correctly, then some other systems come into play which are called proteasomes, and they degrade these faulty proteins. If both the system fails, we have a disease. So that was all the basic concepts about proteins. You can easily try the Satyanarayan biochemistry, or better if you try the Lenin-Jaros triad biochemistry. And if there are any questions, you can always comment in the comment section. And please tell me how you liked the video, if it was beneficial to you or not. Thank you. We would come back with the next chapter, that is the nucleic acids, and also some basic MCQs on this chapter. So try to answer those. Stay safe.